sitting in a place of power. But look at it. It is so afraid. Sitting in a room surrounded with riches and luxury. But it longs for another place. It makes you want to cry. The chair belongs to Zacchaeus, the tax collector. Sits in his house. You have to use your imagination a little bit. Surrounded by all kinds of riches and comforts and luxuries. It's pretty nice in here. You have to use your imagination on the chair, too. Sitting at the end of this long table, covered with food, treasure. Zacchaeus' empty chair. Zacchaeus' only chair. The empty chair. The chair kind of represents the man, doesn't it? You know, it's kind of a symbol of who he is. You know Zacchaeus, the tax collector from Vacation Bible School? Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. Who likes to be called wee? Nobody. Well, there he sits. Can you see him in your mind's eye? Can you paint a picture of what Zacchaeus sitting there at his table, at his breakfast table, and he's eating his breakfast, and he's just chewing on bread and grabbing at the fruit at the table and just kind of stuffing it in his mouth, and kind of a snarl comes over his mouth and he's got his ledger with him, doesn't he? He's looking over his ledger, looking at all the people that owe the taxes, that owe the money. He's got a snarl on his face, and his eyebrows kind of create a V, and his forehead kind of scowls and crinkles up as he looks over all the names and all the numbers. Look at him, consumed. Zacchaeus, he's the chief tax collector. That means he works for Rome. But Zacchaeus is Jewish. How could that be? Zacchaeus is a son of Abraham, see? But Zacchaeus has chosen to betray his people and to also betray his God and work for them, work for those people. It might be hard for us to understand. We're Americans, you know what I mean? We live in the home of the free. But can you imagine what it would be like to live in an oppressive country? Can you imagine what it would be like if someone invaded our country and we were oppressed by them? Whatever country it would be. One of our enemies, say, like Iraq or Iran, or North Korea, somehow one of these countries was able to conquer our country. And we were oppressed. And then they decided to get rich by taking your money from you. So they needed somebody to collect the money. They were looking for volunteers, and I wanted to get rich because I'm greedy. So I volunteer to be one of those tax collectors, and I come to your house, and I tell you that you have to give money to a government on the other side of the planet. I would not be a popular guy, would I? I would not be your friend. And you would not invite me to your 4th of July picnic, wouldn't you? That's the Zacchaeus we're talking about here. And that's why he only has one chair. Because this man doesn't have any friends. He doesn't deserve any friends. The man has betrayed his people. He's betrayed his God. He's betrayed his family. And look at him there. So consumed with himself. So consumed with his money. So consumed with his job. So consumed with his greediness. It's just consumed him. What a despicable, despicable man. And look at that chair. That chair doesn't even belong to him. Because you see, these tax collectors, they got rich by stealing. They come to your house, and the tax was only 10, but they'd take 20. And they would keep 10 for themselves. I'm sure Zacchaeus walked into somebody's house and decided this chair was his. Look at him, a scoundrel, a thief. a liar, a lustful, prideful, self-centered jerk. Look at him sitting there. Don't you hate him? You hate his guts, don't you? Yeah. Stuff in his face. Richest man in town, mind you. Richest man in town. You think he cares for anybody? No. The only thing that is worse than this empty chair of a man is that this empty chair of a man is me. Is you. I mean, can't you see deeper? Can't you see beyond his anger? Can't you see beyond his selfishness? Can't you see beyond his unibrow? I mean, he's hurting. He doesn't have anybody. Nobody to sit with and have breakfast. No friend to talk to over a meal. No one to confide in. No one to trust. He is all alone in this world. Don't you think deep down somewhere in there that hurts? That there is pain there? And that's me. I sit here condemned in my empty chair. I sit here and I'm consumed, right? I might not be consumed with my tax collector job, but I get consumed with other things, don't you? Get consumed with money and get consumed with myself, what I look like, what people think about me, my popularity. I get consumed with all kinds of other things and sin that overwhelms me like an ocean, pride and lust. The mirror haunts me always, pointing at myself, looking in at myself. I mean, my selfishness just drains me, just brings me down, and I turn into this empty chair of a man, just like Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus is me. Zacchaeus is me. You know, I believe in hell. I believe hell is that place where you're completely alienated from God and everybody else, where you are so lonely and isolated. It is so cold, and there is no one, and there is no love, and there is no meaning, and there is no knowing, and there's no belonging, and out and out and out. It's that place of the self, and being so consumed with yourself that you are lost to yourself, and you find yourself in the hell of the empty chair. Meanwhile, there is an ever-loving God calling out my name. Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus, I love you. Zacchaeus. And I don't want anything to do with that God. Because, see, it is so messed up. I hate this chair. And I love this chair. I love it in this chair, man. It is awesome. I'm up here, man. I'm big time up here. This is nice, man. I feel special. I'm on top of the world, man. This is great. You know, I feel powerful up here. Hey, man, look at me. Yeah. Hey, I'm the greatest. I love it up here. Man, I'm bad in this chair. Check me out in my chair. And I hate this chair. I hate this chair because it holds on to me and it will not let go of me. And I get consumed with myself and it drags me in, and it drags me into this hell. So there's Zacchaeus, right? Eating his breakfast, looking over his ledger. And for a moment, he takes time to maybe try and feel what that is. But it doesn't take long. Because you know that feeling, you know that void. Man, if you touch it, it hurts. Man, you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to think about it. And so what you do is you wear a mask, see? A pretend. You play pretend. You ever play pretend? Yeah, you do. Put on the mask. Yeah, think about something else. Think about my money. Think about my ledger. Think about all the people that owe me money. Think about how mad I am. Think about how I have my rights. I think about how much people owe me. That's about me. When am I going to get mine? And so Zacchaeus, he kind of sits there, and that pain, ever so small, kind of jumps up, but boom, he knocks it down with the mask of, oh yeah, money, man. I got to get rich today. I got to get rich. Let's think about something else. That pain will go away. And he walks to the door. He's about to walk out of his house, and there, right by the door, he's got a nice table right by the door there. It's just covered with treasures that he's collected from his town of Jericho. And there on the table, all kinds of riches and gold and silver and all kinds of things that he has just taken from someone else and just put there on the table. Man, this man is rich. But there on the table, as he's walking out the door, he sees it's a goblet. It's an old goblet. You have to use your imagination again. It's an old goblet. And he picks it up just for a minute to look at. You know what time of year it is, right? It's almost Passover. This story about Zacchaeus is in Luke chapter 19. Just about a chapter and a half away from the triumphant entry and then Passover. So Passover is in maybe a week, 10 days. I wonder what Zacchaeus thinks about Passover. You know, there his goblet, you know, given to him. His dad gave it to him. It's a family heirloom. And he looks at it and he thinks about all those times his family has gotten together. You see, Passover, they all start at midnight and they all drink 4 glasses of wine. So things get kind of crazy. And there's laughing, and there's eating, and there's fun, and there's games, and there's music, and there's dancing. It's like a wedding banquet. I mean, it is so much fun, and everybody is there. Grandma, Grandpa, Uncle Fred, Aunt Matilda, Mom, Dad, all the cousins, all the friends, everybody has gathered around the table, and it is good. It is family. It is belonging. Everybody's in. But you know what? Zacchaeus is not a son of Abraham. How many times do you think this aching man, aching because of his own sin, mind you, betrayer, how many times do you suppose he came broken, hurting, longing, with his chair, trying to put it at the table with his family, with the family of God. And he was quickly removed. No, not you, Zacchaeus. You do not belong. You are not a son of Abraham. You get out. You're a sinner. You're a sinner. You are dirty. You do not belong here. Go back to where you came from. Wow, you kind of see Zacchaeus in the chair, don't you? But who else do you see? Who else do you see in the chair? Who else out there in our world has tried to come up into the table and kind of sit at the table, and we've told him, get out. You don't belong here. You don't belong here with us, the good people. You're a sinner. Get out of here. How many times have we done that as the people of God? So there he sits, Zacchaeus. But who else do you see? You see yourself? Do you see a friend? Do you see an enemy? So Zacchaeus, again, he's got the goblet in hand, and then he puts the goblet down. And he holds that ledger closer to his body, and he walks out the door. And then he just starts walking the streets of Jericho. You know, he just walks down the street, and as he's walking, he just keeps his eyes straight ahead. Nobody looks at him either. I'll tell you what, they would kill him if they had the chance. Wouldn't you? I mean, this man is despicable. He is a sinner. People would strangle him, but they don't. Because on this side, there is a very tall Roman centurion guard. And on this side, Roman soldier. Same thing. These guys are big and they're armed to the teeth. You don't mess with Zacchaeus because he's bringing in the dough. He's working for the man. You know what I'm saying. So Zacchaeus walks door to door through the morning, through the afternoon, and then he's just, you remember what I was talking about, that little pain inside of him, ever so small, that small little moment? Well, that's the seed of something, see? That's the seed of something crawling up inside of him, and it's starting to grow. And he finally gets to a home of a woman. He's been to this house a million times. It's a widow. She has nothing. She doesn't even have any kids. Nobody can support her. She lives in a hovel. He goes to knock on the door. He's going to take what little she has. He's going to collect those taxes. And he goes to knock on the door, and it happens. Down the road, very far off, down the road from Jericho, there's a man. And he's waving his arms like this. And he's running as fast as he can. And he's screaming and yelling, "Prepare the way! Prepare the way! Prepare the way of the Lord! Prepare the way! It's Jesus of Nazareth! He's coming this way!" And as those words swim and fly through the air, right to Zacchaeus' ears, inexplicably, the ledger falls to the ground. Because he hears those words for the first time in his life with his ears and with his heart. Prepare the way. Prepare the way of the Lord. He's coming this way. Well, you know what happens in Jericho, don't you? Jesus has been doing ministry for 3 years now. Everybody knows who Jesus is. He touches people and they're healed of leprosy. He touches someone and they can see. The blind see, the deaf could hear, the lame are walking around. This is Jesus, and he's coming into town, and everybody is coming out of their houses. People coming through the doors, people coming through the roof, people coming through the doggone windows and the chimneys. Everybody's coming out of their homes and flooding the streets. Who's coming? Jesus. Jesus is coming. And he's coming down the way. And Zacchaeus, his heart is pounding. He doesn't even know why. Prepare the way. That's all he could think. Prepare the way of the Lord. And he slowly looks off into the distance to see this man and his traveling band of crazy people walking into town. And he doesn't even know why. He just starts moving in that direction. Meanwhile, everybody else in town is they got their hands up. Oh, hey, it's Jesus. Women, they got their babies. Touch my baby. They're people coming out with all kinds of ailments. The blind, the lame, they're walking out. They're so excited. Here comes Jesus. Yeah, it is a big party. People are going nuts. And they can't wait to see him. He's going to come in, boy, and he's going to get you. That's what they're thinking. He's going to have the Superman thing on and the cape, and he's going to come in on a horse and a big white hat, and he's going to kick your butt. You see. And he comes in, and he's just a man with one set of clothes. Son of God, mind you, but humble as you want to be. Just comes into town with a smile on his face. Looking around, touching kids on their heads, shaking hands with old men, just looking around, smiling. It's it's Jesus, the real Jesus. And there behind him, is a fisherman and the Matthew, the tax collector, and Thaddeus. Anybody know anything about Thaddeus? I don't know anything, but there's Bartholomew and all those guys, and they're coming in. And, they've been following Jesus for 3 years, so they're walking with a limp, too, If you've ever followed Jesus, you know what I'm talking about. You're holding their side. Somebody's lost an eye, you know what I mean? And it's just been hard. And their eyes are bugging out, and their minds have been blown. This man, Peter's been walking on water. He's just walking like this, like he's a zombie. He doesn't know what hit him. He's been following Jesus. That's what happened to him. And there right behind him is Susanna and Joanna and Mary, and like 85 Marys are coming, and they're carrying everything. And they got all the stuff, and here they come. It's a big entourage, but it's not what they expected. It wasn't what they expected. They expected, dum, 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 oh, I'm Jesus. And they got just regular, old, I love you to death Jesus. And he comes into town, and people are yelling, and they want to see Jesus. Touch my baby. Touch my hand. It's wonderful. I wish I could have been there. It must have been awesome. And that's what Zacchaeus is thinking. This is awesome. I got to see this Jesus. His heart is beating. His heart is beating 100 miles an hour. And he goes up into the crowd, and he tries to find his way. But what he forgot is, he is a wee little man, and a wee little man is he. And he tries to squeeze in, but as soon as two people that he's trying to squeeze in between see Zacchaeus coming, they give him the old elbow on the head. Get out of here. Not you. This Jesus is for us, not you. Get out of here, you rich man. You don't belong here. And so he kind of falls to the ground there for a minute, and there's got to be another way. There's got to be another way. So with his heart pumping, he runs up ahead, and he sees a sycamore tree. And this man, who's probably never climbed a stair in his life, starts to climb this sycamore tree. I hope I'm insured for this. Am I insured for this? Okay, we'll give it a try. So he gets up onto this. Well, let me give it to the edge to really scare you guys. Yeah, there we go. He gets up onto the edge, and he climbs out on a sycamore tree limb. And he's way out there on the limb. You know, he's out on a limb. You know what I'm saying? He is out on a limb. Literally. And you know what? There is no place God wants you more than out on a limb. Because that's when you're thinking of nothing but Jesus. And so Zacchaeus is out there on a limb. It's really scary out on the limb. And you're worried you're not going to make it. He's got his hand out like this. Here comes Jesus, walking down the street. And he looks up, and he says, Zacchaeus! Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. I wonder when the last time Zacchaeus actually heard somebody say his name. He knows my name. Jesus knows your name. He knows me. Is there anything I want more? To be known by God and to know Him. He knows my name. Jesus, come down. Don't you love how Jesus just gets right to the point? Zacchaeus, come down. Zacchaeus, come down. Bob, Mike, Suzanne, Leslie, calm down. You out on a limb, you're shaking, you're scared to death, you're like a little bunny rabbit, your eyes are bugging out, you don't know how you're going to pay for gas, you don't know how you're going to pay your bills, you just lost your job, you got problems in the family, you got problems at work. Hey, come down. Surrender. Let go. That's what we're asked to do. That's the message. That's the call. Talk about God's call. That's God's call. Zacchaeus, calm down. Calm down. Let go. Stop fighting. I got you. Let go. It's going to be okay. And he comes down, and there he stands right before Jesus. The whole town is completely quiet. They're all just looking. They're waiting. They don't know what's going to happen. Zacchaeus looks at Jesus. He doesn't know what's going to happen either. And Jesus says, hey, I want to come stay at your house today. No way. Right? Isn't Jesus the most offensive man you ever met in your life? He is so offensive it drives me crazy. This man is nuts. Here's a man
let's say, who works for Al-Qaeda. And he comes to your house and takes money and sends it to Al-Qaeda. Now, some of it, he saves the rest, see, and steals it from you. And Jesus puts his arm around this man, this rich man, and says, I want to stay at your house today. You would do the same thing everybody else in town does. What? Are you crazy? No! That is not Jesus. That's the wrong Jesus. I'm going back in my house. Tell me when the 11:15 Jesus comes out, because this 11 o'clock Jesus is not doing it for me. I don't want that Jesus. Boom, and they go back into their houses. Nobody wants this Jesus. This Jesus gets in our face, and he says, I'm for them. What? Come on, no, you're for me. I'm the center of the universe. You, Jesus, are for me, not them. You see, Jesus went into his hometown of Nazareth. And there, he stood in the synagogue, and they gave him the scroll of Isaiah, and he unwound it. And he found the place where it says, the Spirit of the Lord is on me. He has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, to release the oppressed, to release the prisoner, sight for the blind. The lame can walk, the deaf can hear, and proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Boom! And he sits down. Everybody likes it. Yibbity-doo! Jesus read from the Old Testament. He's the greatest. No, don't tell me that, Jesus says. I tell you the truth. A prophet is never welcome in his hometown. And what I'll tell you more is, there were many, many people that were widows in the time of Elijah. But Elijah just went to one, a widow in Zarephath. And there were many people with leprosy in the time of Elisha. But Elijah just went to one, Naaman the Syrian. The whole crowd in the synagogue goes nuts. What? Are you kidding me? Get him! And they stand him up and they walk him out of town, in his hometown, mind you. They walk him out of town, down the road to a hill. They're going to throw him off and kill him. What did he say? I'll tell you what he said. It's like he walked into our sanctuary and said, hey guys, I found the kingdom of God. And we're all like, yeah, we knew you'd catch up. And he goes, I found it. It's down at the trailer park. It's down at the projects. It's down at the strip club. It's down at the bar. It's down at the bowling alley. It's down at those poor places. It's down on the other continent. You guys want to come? What? Are you kidding me, Jesus? What are you saying? And they try to kill him. And we try to kill him too, but we can't. So we'll just put a big white smile, some blue eyes on him, put a little sheep around his back, and march him down the street and saying, hey, this is Jesus. But Jesus is the man who stands beside this rich man Zacchaeus, who we all hate, and invites himself to his house. How offensive is that? All the people in town walk back in. They're not interested. I'm surprised one of you hasn't walked out yet. This is completely, impossibly offensive. I don't know what to make of it. They start walking to Zacchaeus' house. The whole entourage. Jesus, Peter and Andrew and James, John. There's Thomas. Even Thomas made it this far. And everybody. And they're walking. And I always wonder, what is Zacchaeus thinking as they're walking to his house? Wow. This is a lot of people. I hope I have enough food. I hope I have enough linen. I hope I have enough chairs. That's when it starts to hurt, right? Jesus is going to walk into my house and see my empty chair. Jesus is going to walk into my house and see my shame, see my sin, see my alienation. I don't want anybody to see my empty chair. What's he going to do? He's going to pick it up and beat me with it, right? Is that what Jesus does? Zacchaeus walks into his house and Jesus goes and picks up his empty chair and beats him with it? Is that what happens? No. Just the opposite. Jesus Christ walks into the house, walks into Zacchaeus' house, walks into our house. He sits down in the chair, and the soldiers put a bag over his head and punch him in the face. Come on, prophesy. Who is hitting you now? Boom, boom, boom. And then they take him and they strap him to a post and they beat him with a cat of nine tails. 39 times. Then they place him back up here. They put a robe around his body and they put a crown of thorns on his head, and they take a staff and bam, boom, they beat it down so a line of blood goes right down his cheek. There he is. That's what he does to our chair. And finally he goes and they raise him up. They finally raise him up on the cross. Nails in his hands and his feet, mocking him. Come on down, you say, the Son of God. You who say you could knock down the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. Save yourself. He just says, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That means, my God, why have you forsaken me? He gives up his spirit. The curtain in the temple is torn in two. All of the sin, alienation, and isolation and death of the entire world are done away with. And Jesus does the most awesome thing to this chair. He dashes it into 1,000,000 pieces. Whose chair is this? I'm just kidding. But Jesus takes our chair of shame, our chair of sin, and he rips it into 1,000,000 pieces and sends it as far as the east is from the west. He takes it all. They all come in, Peter and James and John, they all walk into the house. They kind of move the chair to the side. They don't care about the chair. They put the table to one side and they create a little place on the ground. And Jesus and the disciples and the women, they all gather in a circle on the floor there in Zacchaeus' house. I know this isn't in the scripture, I'm just using my imagination. And there they all sit there, and they're just shooting the breeze. They're all talking about the day and what happened. And there, Zacchaeus sees, for the first time, somebody actually in his house, sitting. There's a party. And that little seed that I talked about earlier that kind of grew has now turned into a grapevine. And it is encompassing his whole being. And the tears come down his face as he kind of looks for a place. And Peter's like, dude, sit down. And Zacchaeus finds a place right next to Jesus. And he gets down on his knees. And he just weeps. Peter puts his arm around him. And then there's a couple more that put their hand on his head. And Jesus, who's sitting there, puts his arm around him and says, yeah, you're gonna be okay. Jesus walks over to the table, the one they kind of put over to the side. He takes the bread. He breaks it. He kind of passes a loaf around, and the guys and the gals are pulling off pieces of bread and tossing it in their mouth, and it finally gets to Zacchaeus. And he takes... he's crying and trying to eat at the same time. You know how uncomfortable that is? He was so hungry. He was so hungry. He didn't realize
how hungry he was. He's so hungry. And he feasts on the bread, and he feasts on community, and he feasts on his friends, and he feasts on Jesus. Then Jesus goes to the table and gets a bit of the wine. This is juice. We're United Methodist. And he goes and he pours a little bit. You know, he takes Zacchaeus' little goblet there that's sitting on the table, you know, and he brings it over and he passes it around, you know, and everybody gets a sip. And then it comes to Zacchaeus. He was so thirsty. So thirsty. He stands up and he says, Lord, I tell you the truth. Right now, I give away half I possess. It's gone. Get it out of here. And if I have cheated anyone, I will give them back 4 times the amount. Zacchaeus, he surrenders, right? He surrenders. Jesus puts his arm around Zacchaeus. And he says the most offensive of words. Today, salvation has come to this house because this man too is a son of Abraham. I suppose Zacchaeus falls on the ground and starts crying some more. And they're all shooting the breeze and they have a great time. Who knows, maybe they pull out a game and they start playing a game on the floor. It's a great party. Zacchaeus and his new friends. And Jesus says, for the Son of Man has come to save and to seek what was lost. So come. Come to the table. I know you're out there. I know you hurt. I know you're a sinner, Jesus says. I don't care. Grab your chair. And take a place at my table. The Word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.